In a future where resources are scarce, humanity is in crisis, the world is grappling with a critical crisis: scarcity of resources like food, water, and basic necessities. To address this, governments have taken drastic measures. International borders are closed, and every country must meet strict population reduction goals within a year. As part of these measures, people are encouraged to join a euthanasia program, with promises of a more sustainable future. The public, however, is divided, with some seeing it as the only way forward, and others resisting the idea entirely. One hot afternoon, people wait under the scorching sun, sheltering under umbrellas, just to collect water from a truck. The situation is dire and society is on edge. As part of the euthanasia initiative, Department of Citizen Strategy employees arrive at a house to remove a body, assisted by 2 piano movers. While they work, they notice the road banners calling for citizens to enroll in the euthanasia program. They arrive at the mansion of Charles York, a former news anchor, to drop off his piano. Inside, they hear an interview on TV with Professor Jared, an anthropologist and Charles's son. Jared supports the euthanasia program, and when the interviewer asks if the age limit for enrollment should be lowered, he agrees, mentioning his 10-year-old son. This statement draws immediate anger from the piano movers, who swear at Jared for suggesting such a thing, but they quickly apologize when they realize Jared is Charles's son. The camera cuts to a family portrait: Charles, his wife Dawn Kim, their 2 daughters, Rachel and Ashley, their son Jared, and their adopted son Noah. Charles enters the kitchen and finds Dawn preparing for dinner. He dumps alcohol down the sink, then praises her idea of placing the piano in the bedroom, suggesting she come see. But when he notices that Dawn is emotional, he apologizes and embraces her. The TV reveals troubling news. Rachel's pharmaceutical company is facing a major lawsuit. Meanwhile, Jared arrives outside his parents' mansion. But before he enters, he receives an angry call from his wife, Beth. She is furious about his comments in the interview, particularly because their son, Lucas, has heard them and is upset. Jared tries to explain that his words were misinterpreted, but Beth refuses to listen and hangs up. Annoyed, Jared heads inside and goes to the wine cabinet, only to find it empty. He asks Dawn if Noah is coming, and she confirms that he is. Charles, meanwhile, is less than thrilled when Rachel arrives with her daughter, Mia. He had insisted that tonight would be an adults-only evening, but Rachel threatens to leave if Mia isn't allowed to stay. Reluctantly, Charles agrees. As Rachel sits down, Charles asks her about the lawsuit. She scoffs and storms off, clearly frustrated. Outside, Noah stands nervously, unable to bring himself to enter the house. He calls his girlfriend, Grace, seeking comfort, but Grace quickly realizes that he is feeling uneasy. She urges him to go back home. Just as Noah is about to leave, Ashley arrives and asks him to go inside with her. She's a struggling actress, frustrated by her lack of success, but she tells Noah that she's just filmed a commercial for a video game. Noah mentions Grace, and Ashley, a bit upset that he hadn't told her sooner, expresses her disappointment. Noah apologizes, and they agree to be more open with each other in the future. Inside, Charles greets Noah with a warm hug. Rachel and Jared exchange uneasy glances, and the family gathers at the dinner table. Dawn, once a celebrated chef, serves the food, but the mood is tense. Charles makes a toast, thanking everyone for coming and apologizing for not spending more time with them. Rachel, however, is angry. She demands to know why her father invited them tonight after such a long absence. Charles reveals that he and Dawn have decided to enlist in the euthanasia program. Rachel explodes in anger, shouting at her father, but Charles, equally furious, tells her to calm down. He explains that he decided to enlist to avoid seeing one of his children drafted into the program. By stepping forward voluntarily, he's protecting his family. But Jared, ever the rational one, points out that only one person per family can be enlisted, and the rules don't apply to wealthy people like them. Despite Jared's objections, Charles refuses to back down. The siblings start to wonder if Charles forced Dawn into this decision, but she assures them it's mutual. They want to set a good example for others, she says, and do what they believe is best for their family. Ashley, however, accuses her father of only doing this for attention and to bolster his own reputation. Noah stands up, upset, and slams his hand on the table, but Dawn scolds him for his outburst. She excuses herself to check on dessert and tells everyone to wait. Later, Noah tries to reason with Charles, telling him that the government has already met its population reduction goals and that they're inflating the numbers. He also mentions that the government is offering enlistment to illegal immigrants in exchange for citizenship, something that doesn't sit well with Noah. Charles, however, is not swayed by his son's arguments. Ashley accidentally reveals that Noah is dating Grace, and Charles is disappointed to learn that his son is with someone who has struggled with addiction in the past. Noah defends Grace, stating that she has been clean for 10 years and is a positive influence on him. He even shows them a picture of her. Noah and Grace both work at a mall, and Noah plays the piano. Charles grudgingly admits that Noah is doing well, and after a moment of reflection, he heads off to find Dawn. He returns with a note informing everyone that Dawn is gone. She couldn't go through with it. Before anyone can react, the doorbell rings. Charles opens the door to find the euthanasia procedure team, led by a representative named Bob, arriving earlier than expected. Bob tells Charles that the procedure must proceed as planned, but Charles insists they postpone it until Dawn returns. Bob, however, wants Charles to sign the cancellation papers. After some back and forth, Charles agrees to go ahead with the procedure. As Bob prepares for the euthanasia, Charles lies in bed, surrounded by his children. Noah, as a form of comfort, plays the piano softly in the background. Charles apologizes to his children and emotions run high. Bob injects Charles with an anesthetic, causing him to drift off to sleep. Moments later, Bob injects a red liquid into Charles's system, ending his life. As the family is left in shock, Bob informs them that he needs another body. He reminds them that only 2 bodies were promised, and with Charles's death, they have 2 hours to decide who will take Dawn's place. With heavy hearts, they realize that Mia, the young child, is exempt from the procedure, but one of them will need to make the ultimate sacrifice. Bob had a dark secret that he shared with Charles, telling him the real reason for the gruesome procedure. If someone backed out, their bank accounts would be frozen, their assets seized, and they'd be thrown in jail for the rest of their lives. But what really struck Charles was the fact that their name would end up on the cowards list. It was this shame that pushed him to make a chilling decision. He would choose death rather than live with the disgrace. Jared, desperate to stop the madness, tried to convince Bob to leave them alone. He boasted about knowing influential people who could stop this, but Bob remained unfazed. Calmly, he revealed that he had already cut off all internet and phone connections, ensuring the family couldn't reach out to anyone outside. Bob then gave the siblings a chilling instruction. They should go into separate rooms, think carefully about their lives, and decide who the real bad guy was. He handed them personal notes they had written about their family members. It was a twisted game, but they had no choice but to play. As Bob read a note about Rachel, she became enraged, slapping him across the face and making his nose bleed. Instead of retaliating, Bob simply left, informing them that when they had made their decision, they should flick the porch lights on and off. While the siblings wrestled with their emotions, Ashley stumbled upon her father's old emails. As she read about herself in one of the papers, she learned that her father had labeled her melodramatic. Furious, she began screaming and throwing things in a blind rage. Meanwhile, Rachel had an idea to protect herself. Grabbing a chef's knife, she prepared for whatever might come next. When the siblings reunited, Jared declared that Noah, the drug addict who had killed a woman, should be the one to die. Ashley, however, disagreed, arguing that Jared wasn't a good person and should be the one to face death. The 2 siblings clashed, each convinced their choice was right. Noah, for his part, explained that he had come tonight to apologize. He claimed to have changed and wanted to live. But in the midst of the chaos, Bob was busy trying to have a conversation with little Mia, who wasn't intimidated by him and showed her attitude. When Bob saw the porch lights flicker, he realized the siblings had made their decision. The tension grew, and when the siblings asked Bob what would happen if they couldn't choose, he casually replied that he would settle it by drawing straws. Rachel, thinking quickly, suggested, "What if we give him a body?" Bob, intrigued, allowed them to proceed with the plan. Rachel's deadly idea unfolded. She took the knife and attacked Noah, slicing his chest as he tried to defend himself. Ashley, torn, tried to stop her siblings, but they convinced her that if they killed Noah, they could use the inheritance money for her acting career. It was a cruel betrayal. With a mixture of guilt and desperation, Ashley slid the knife towards Rachel. But as they moved forward with their deadly plan, Ashley revealed a shocking twist. Noah's inheritance had already been paid to the family of the woman he had accidentally killed. As the siblings closed in on Noah, Jared made a move to stab him with a sharp object, while Ashley brandished pepper spray, and Rachel gripped her knife. In a desperate struggle, Noah fought back, using his strength to overpower them. He hid in a room, barricading himself inside. Jared followed, but Noah defended himself with a trophy, knocking Jared in the face. Ashley then sprayed pepper spray into Noah's eyes. As he staggered away, Rachel lunged at him with the knife, stabbing him in the back. While the chaos unfolded, Mia made her way to the washroom in the van, unaware of the violence inside. Bob received a call about Dawn's capture, but decided to keep it a secret. He instructed his agents to take her to the headquarters, further escalating the already tense situation. Back inside the house, Noah, now locked in his father's room, tried to reach his girlfriend, but when his phone had no signal, he threw it out of the window. Relieved when he saw that the message had been sent to Grace, he then broke a bench and used one of its legs as a weapon, going to the kitchen to make a makeshift suit of armor out of an apron and plate. As he encountered Ashley, who pretended to be his ally, they found themselves surrounded by childhood photos. But as Noah tried to make sense of the situation, Rachel and Jared snuck up on him. Rachel stabbed him in the hand, but instead of helping him, Ashley ran away. Noah fought free and locked himself in another room, where he armed himself with a bat. When Jared attempted to break in, Noah threw the bat at him, accidentally hitting Rachel with a fork. Ashley panicked, hit Noah on the head, knocking him unconscious. They tied him up and planned to stab him together. But just as they were about to strike, the doorbell rang. They froze, confused. When they opened the door, they were shocked to find Grace standing there, recording everything. The siblings begged her to get help. But before she could make a move, agents from Bob's crew appeared and killed her. Bob, watching the scene unfold, told the siblings that Grace's death didn't count in his game. He still wanted the body of a family member. The siblings burst into the room, determined to finish what they had started. But Noah was no longer where they had left him. In the darkness, he had managed to escape the trap and turned off the lights. The room was plunged into chaos as Noah, now hidden in the dark, attacked. He lunged at Ashley, stabbing her with a knife before Rachel once again was struck in the process, the wound causing her to bleed. As Ashley writhed in pain, Rachel pleaded with Noah to spare her sister, offering herself as the one to be killed instead. But just as Rachel's words hung in the air, Jared interrupted with his own declaration. He was the one who deserved to die, not Ashley. Noah, though, had other ideas. He suggested that instead of any of them, they should kill Bob. But before any decision could be made, the urgent need to tend to Ashley's wound became the priority. Time was running out and her life hung in the balance. At that moment, Bob and his men barged into the room. The sight of Ashley lying unconscious on the floor immediately threw them into action. But the siblings were quick-witted. They managed to turn the tables on Bob and his guards, taking them hostage. Jared grabbed a gun and, with his siblings' help, overpowered the rest of Bob's men as they walked in. The situation had completely shifted. Bob was now their prisoner. As Ashley's condition worsened, she passed out, slipping into unconsciousness. Bob tried to free himself, but his efforts were in vain. The siblings had the upper hand, and they weren't about to let it slip away. The procedure that Bob had so carefully planned for them was now about to be used on him instead. Desperate, Bob tried to negotiate, knowing he had little left to bargain with. He warned them that if they hurt him, the government would take custody of their children. He also revealed that they had finally found Dawn. But the siblings, now beyond caring for his threats, were determined. Noah, cold and resolute, injected Bob with the anesthetic, and just like that, the screen went black. The scene shifted and we found Noah at a grand piano, playing in the spotlight of a concert hall. His family sat in the audience, silent, watching him with solemn expressions. It was clear the roles had shifted in ways none of them had imagined. Grace and Ashley were officially accepted as volunteers in the euthanasia program. And Bob, once the orchestrator of their grim fate, had somehow been manipulated into playing his part in their twisted scheme. He, too, had been a pawn in their blackmail, forced into a deal that ensured his fate would be sealed. The program continued, unaffected, and the siblings stood victorious in a world where the line between justice and cruelty was painfully blurred, and it would be pretty cruel if you had to stop your entertainment here. Continue by clicking on the recommendations on the right next. Subscribe and drop a like to return for more. Grab your popcorn, enjoy yourself, and see you soon, my friend.